Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Photo of you golfing with your son Hunter and his business partner Devin Archer. Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
Did you and your father ever discuss Ukraine?
No. As I said, the only time was after a news account, and it wasn't a discussion in any way. There's no but to this, no.
I never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. No one has indicated I have. We've always kept everything separate. Even when my son was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware, we never discussed anything. So there'd be no potential conflict. Because I never discussed with my son anything having to do with what was going on in Ukraine. That's a fact. I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters, and I've never discussed them because they know where I have to do my job and that's it, and they have to make their own judgment.
I've never discussed what my son's business with him because I didn't want any conflict.
Hunter Biden, your son, was getting paid a lot of money to serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges. You were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it.
The president has said that he never spoke to his son about his overseas business dealings. Is that still the case?
Yes. Curious if the White House and the president still stand behind his comment that he's never been involved and has never even spoken to his son about his business.
So I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son.
Hunter Biden's former business partner testifying the president's son sold the illusion of access to his powerful father. Lawmakers who were in the room telling us Devin Archer said Hunter Biden took calls from his dad in the presence of clients and often put him on speakerphone.
Approximately 20 times over the course of 10-year relationship, Hunter may have put his father on the phone with any number of different people, and they never once spoke about any business dealings. As he described it, it was all casual conversation, niceties, the weather.
One of your son's former business associates is claiming that you were on speakerphone a lot with them, talking business. Is that what?
I never talked business in that way. And I knew you'd have a lousy question.
Well, why is that a lousy question?
Because it's not true.
Can you explain to the Americans, amid this impeachment inquiry, why you interacted with so many of your son and brother's foreign business associates?
I'm not going to comment on that. I did not, and it's just a bunch of lies.
You didn't interact with many of their business associates?
I did not. There's lies.
Let me state as clearly as I can. My father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad.
We've been extremely clear over and over again for years, and nothing has changed. The president was not in business with his son, period.
But it is a fact that the president said one thing that ended up being not true.
Again, I dispute that's true. That is not true.
I've never spoken to my son. I never discussed a single thing with my son because I never discussed with my son. I've never discussed my business or their business.
The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son.
My father was not financially involved in my business.
And it's just a bunch of lies.
Lies, 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 yeah.